This is black cocoa powder. It's the secret type of chocolate behind Hydrox cookies or Kaleidos or Oreos, any of the knockoffs. A few weeks ago, I impulse bought a kilo of it, and I need to figure out a bunch of ways to use it. So here are my favorite 3 ways to highlight this ingredient, from easy to hard, and don't worry, I'm a professional. Okay, Oreo's milk's best friend, or something like that. Now, normally you just dip the things, but nah, I want actual Oreo milk. Mixing or blending Oreos into milk creates something, but it's not the Oreo milk I had in mind. It's sickly sweet, it's thick, I don't know. It's just not it. I mean, we can do better. We can do better than this. Now, listen, if we were lazy, we could just blend together cold milk and just black cocoa powder, sugar, whatever. We get something that works. It's technically correct, but it tastes flat and sad. I mean, I didn't work for years as a pastry chef just to accept this kind of mediocre thing. Like, we're not done yet. Okay, more than anything else, we need to bloom the cocoa powder in hot milk in order to better develop that flavor. It'll have a much greater depth of flavor than that just like plain immersion blended thing we just did. Anyway, the stovetop, microwave, in your oven, toaster, it's probably not your toaster, I don't care, just get it hot, but don't let it boil over. It'll sneak up on you, and it will make a mess. Separately, whisk together your sugar and black cocoa powder. This helps the cocoa powder more easily dissolve into the hot milk later on. Once your milk is nice and hot, just mix it into your powders. It should be nice, easy, quick work with a whisk, but I would still always recommend passing the final result through a fine mesh strainer anyway, just in case. But make sure to blame your equipment when you make a mess, like a real pro. It also wouldn't be a bad idea to rapidly chill your milk in a little bit of an ice bath before refrigerating it overnight, just to help cool it down a bit more quickly. The next day, your chocolate milk will have separated, just give it a stir or shake, and enjoy probably the closest thing to like true Oreo milk that can even exist. And yeah, I did try dipping an Oreo in it, it's kind of pointless. But listen, I have a kilo of this stuff. I cannot possibly imagine drinking like 7 or 8 gallons of black chocolate milk, so how about something else like brownies? I mean, they're a childhood favorite of mine. They're a great way to use up a ton of cocoa powder, and it's honestly a very easy same-day recipe. So just get started by melting some butter and sift together your flour and cocoa powder. Can you tell there's a lot of cocoa powder in here? Separately, weigh out some dark chocolate in a bowl. I'm using Coco Noel 64% cacao couverture style chocolate. It's not fancy, but honestly, frankly, any decent dark chocolate will work. It's not hard.
Well, where am I putting these? I'm so stupid.
You know what is hard? Planning ahead. Okay, butter's boiling, so let's mix that with our chocolate and just set that aside for now. Then, in a stand mixer, whisk together your eggs, sugar, salt, and vanilla powder, or vanilla paste, or whatever you're...
Okay.
Vanilla something. Once it's nice and luscious and demure and all of that, switch out the whisk for the paddle attachment, and then gently pour in that still hot butter and chocolate mixture while slowly mixing. And try to avoid hitting either the side of the bowl or the top of the paddle attachment, but it's probably not really a big deal. Stop it once it looks pretty much even, then sift in the first half of your flour and black cocoa powder. Mix gently, nice. Good job, man. Okay, mix on low until it's nearly combined, then sift in the rest and repeat until... Yeah, it happened again. I mean, come on, dude. Scrape down the sides, give it a little bit of a finishing mix, and then whack it into the pan. Now, I'll admit, I'm weird. I like big, thin, like kind of rectangular brownies, so I'm baking mine in these 16 by 12 inch grandma style pizza pan. Don't judge me. However, your standard like 9 by 13 inch like American cake pan, that'll be totally fine too. Maybe just a little bit longer on the bake. So this one is going to take about 25-35 minutes at 350. Yours can take a little longer, but I've done testing with this pan and recipe, so I'm pretty confident about it. But if you have any doubts, just shoot for an internal temperature around 205 Fahrenheit. So I suppose this is probably as good a time to admit as any that I was playing around with the recipe for this time. I dropped the fat content quite a bit, and while I do like the inside texture of these ones quite a bit more, they don't have that glossy top. Okay, onto the most technical one, Madeleines. For this recipe especially, I really recommend preparing everything in advance. Timing and temperature really matter. Alright, this starts just like with the brownies, with melting some butter until it's boiling, but just set this aside for now. In a stand mixer, beat your eggs and sugar for a minute or two until it's just thickened a bit, then switch to the paddle attachment. Sift your flour, baking powder, and cocoa powder together, and then fold it into your eggs and sugar in 2 additions. Now, I think it's fair to say I'd have to be a real big stupid idiot to, have that same mistake earlier, with the brownies and the flour, to have that happen again. Yeah. So, anyway, get your milk, vanilla, orange zest, honey, and salt heating to a boil, then stream this into the batter while mixing on low speed. Don't forget to scrape down the sides for the orange zest and milk solids, that's flavor, Once that's integrated, do the same with the still scalding butter. I'd explain why hot liquids help make a better batter, but I don't think anyone will take me seriously after what happened earlier with the flour, so I'll just link an article about it in the description. Your batter should be pretty warm and liquid. Just pour it into a bowl, cover it well, refrigerate it overnight. You cannot bake these right away. A large part of the success of Madeleines comes from the thermic shock of just a little thin layer of cold batter going into like a super hot oven. The next day, preheat your oven to about 430 Fahrenheit to 20 Celsius. Prep a metal Madeleine mold with some spray oil and pipe in these little nuggets of Madeleine batter. Now, I'll be honest, normally I'm super lucky with just barely always having enough, but this time it fell the other way. And honestly, the level of shock and betrayal and horror I can't even possibly describe in words. Get those into the oven without letting out too much heat and bake for 5 minutes before just turning the oven off and leaving the door closed for about 7 to 9 more minutes until they're fully cooked. Now, I would show you a cute little baking time lapse, that would be nice, but this awful corporate apartment oven is not it. Anyway, this baking strategy maximizes the thermal shock behind the bulges while ensuring that the Madeleines are both cooked in the center and not burnt around the edges. These little cakes can be fancy little desserts to elevate your next event or just be a little fun exercise in like international baking. I brought some of these to my brother, of course, and I also had to pay the good girl tax. Normal. So that's it, black cocoa powder, 3 different ways, 3 different skill levels, and 3 different products. But what if we were to go beyond, from hard to like expert? One of the most iconic yet difficult to execute pastries in the world, but not quite yet. The recipe needs a little bit more testing. I definitely messed it up the first few times, so I guess you just have to subscribe now to see when it's ready. Anyway, how would you use black cocoa powder? What did I miss? You can get this stuff easily online. I know King Arthur sells it, but this one that I'm using is from Cocoa Barry. Anyway, subscribe. Bye. Thanks.